Hello guys, this is Lima Yankee 2 Hotel. Well, I've been asked to make this video. Alright, no corruption here. Just one of my viewers wrote me a letter asking if I could make a short video, a short story on how to connect ICOM IC-705 with the laptop computer for the FT8 work. No problems. I've just uploaded a new version of WSJT-X software, the version 2.4, and I'm really curious myself before going to the fields for activation of a park. I'm curious myself, how will it work really? So stay tuned, enjoy the view of roses, our neighbor's roses, or watch the busy bees on our lawn, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, we need three things for the successful FT8 work: the radio, the computer, and the USB cord. The radio is ICOM IC-705 in our case. The computer is laptop mini PC Chewy Windows 10 in my case. And the USB cord, I don't know the make of this USB cord, but I hope it's of good quality. It must be shielded, it should be reliable, and it should be able to transmit data, not only the charging USB cable, as sometimes happens. And I also put on it 2 pairs of ferrite clamps in order to prevent some possible influence from the RF feedback or something like that. I think it really helps. So let's start with the radio. If you got ICOM IC-705 with the latest firmware installed on it, the 1.24 version of the firmware, then you do the FT8 setup with a push or one button, because the new firmware has introduced a new feature called presets. We go to the menu, we go to menu number 2, and we see the preset. We press the preset button and we see a choice: normal, FT8, or my FT8. Well, the presets normal and FT8, they are designed in the factory, and they come 2 of these presets, 1 and 2. Number 3 or number 4 or number 5, they are left for the consumer to create. So I've created number 3, my FT8 LY2H. So we can see what's the difference. Press and hold, edit the preset memory, and we see that preset name, I can choose my own name. I write it in. I can choose the different settings of the menus. In my own personal presets, nothing was different from the FT8 preset from the factory, except of the CIV address, communication interface V address. I put it 94H, which means different radio. 94H is for ICOM IC-7300. So I did it in times when I was using the older version of the WSJT-X software, which was not able to recognize new radio ICOM IC-705, and the ICOM IC-705 had to pretend it is a ICOM IC-7300. The new versions of the WSJT-X fully recognize the ICOM IC-705. It's on the list, and it's no problems whatsoever to choose it. So then the address should be A4H, which means ICOM IC-705. We can push FT8, load the preset memory. Yes, we want to load the preset memory, and it's okay. With this we can say that all the necessary values of the different menu items on the radio are now set to the right levels and right values with this FT8 preset. So we can exit and we can go to the menu number 1. We can go to set. We can go to connectors and see what kind of values we have. The most important chapter is Communication Interface V, CIV. So we see CIV address. It's A4H. This address is designated for the ICOM IC-705. So if due to any reasons you need to change this address, for instance, you want to pretend your radio is not ICOM IC-705 but ICOM 7300, for instance, in case you use the older version of the WSJT-X or some other digital programs which do not recognize this new ICOM radio, but they do recognize ICOM 7300. So you need to change the CIV address from A4H into 94H. 94H. So if you leave it like this, this radio, ICOM IC-705, would be recognized by the software as ICOM 7300. So, all right, in our case it's A4H. Leave it as it is, and that's it. MOD input, modulation input. We see all the levels. Data modulation, we want it to be USB. It means the sound which comes from your computer into the radio, and from the radio to the computer, it goes through the USB port. It's important, data off modulation. What does it mean? It's often confused. It means that when you don't use data, when you don't use digital, where does the sound come into the radio? In this case, it comes from the microphone, from the mic. If you put it USB or you put it mic and USB, then you would have situation when the sound, instead of your microphone, would come from your computer. So we don't want this. That's actually it with the radio setup. And we see it's the mode is USB digital, and all the presets are in place. All right, radio setup, so far so good. So now onto the computer. First thing to do, we need to install the necessary ICOM drivers onto the Windows 10 machine. The installation user manual from ICOM strongly recommends to do that with the USB cable disattached from the computer. So while installing the USB drivers, no radio should be attached, connected to the computer. This is a very strong recommendation. In this short video, I'm not going to go into details on how to install USB drivers for ICOM IC-705. All this procedure is very well described onto the ICOM Japan support website. There is a link in the description of this video, so please go there, please read it carefully and do as they say. So the only thing what I would recommend to do when you do install the USB drivers and you do reconnect your radio with a USB cable to the computer, it's very good to go to the device manager, go to start, right click on it in Windows 10, go to device manager, left click, device manager opens, then you go to ports. When the ports open, you have to see two of them. One is ICOM IC-705 serial port A, CIV on COM4 in my case, and ICOM IC-705 serial port B on COM5. For the FT8 digital work, we will need COM4, which is ICOM IC-705 serial port A CIV. If you see these two ports on the device manager, it means the USB driver was installed correctly and you are ready to go for the WSJT-X software. Now let's start the WSJT-X app. Alright, so we see it's all working because we see the frequency and we see the green dot here. Green, it means that the CAT system is working and basically everything's working. But we can go to the settings and just take a look what are the settings are. So general is not important in this case. We go to radio and we see that ICOM IC-705 is selected here, and we see that it's on serial port COM4, which is as we saw in the device manager, this is a CIV communication interface port of ICOM IC-705. This what brings us CAT control. We see the baud rate 115/200 here, but in fact it doesn't matter. I will put 9600. Why? Because this baud rate is indicated in the properties of the USB driver. So we just can. So we go to test CAT on the lower right, and it's green. It means it's okay. We test PTT and the radio goes on. The red LED lights. The radio goes on. So we push PTT again and radio switches. So what is important, it's CAT to be selected as a PTT method. If you select CAT, nothing else matters. It just works. So mode data/packet. In our case we should choose this because ICOM IC-705 does have data mode. There are some radios which do not have separate data mode, so then you would choose USB. And split operation, fake it. I think it's important to mark fake it, otherwise you won't be able to work split, like in WSJT-X, transmitting on one frequency and listening onto the other frequency. So that's it. We can leave the menu side and go back to the software app, and look, it's full of stations. Now let's try to go transmitting. I see Polish station calling CQ on 20 meters. Okay, transmitter works. We're releasing around 6 watts output from the external battery now into Elecraft AX1 antenna. Pocket teeny tiny antenna, but it works on receive. Maybe it works on transmit. Tuned with the Elecraft T1 tuner. Alright, the Polish station answered some other station. It's not so easy really to get heard with such a smallish antenna. So guys, the setup's completed, it's all working, and I hope it was useful. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing if you like what I'm doing. Please leave a comment in the comment section, or please write me a letter if you would like me to make another story which you would like to see on my channel. I will be glad to make it if only my knowledge and equipment allow me to. For now, 73, see you later. This is Linas, Lima Yankee 2 Hotel.